Are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Let's do this.
Let's do this thing, man.
The League Podcast.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? How you doing? You got J&D here once again with the League Podcast. Today we got all of our Week 5 matchups and, our advice on the games and players. So
Damn right.
before we get into it, though, once again, go show us some love on our social media, on Facebook at The League Podcast and on Instagram, as well as at The League Pod for Twitter. All of our podcasts we post on SoundCloud, which you can find us at The League Podcast as well, which is all on our website. So go check out our website at www.theleaguefantasyfootball.wordpress.com.
Awesome. We got a big game tonight, Dale. Thursday night football. We got the Colts going into Gillette Stadium and taking on Tom Brady and the Patriots, who are coming off a loss.
Yeah. No. Win. Big win.
Big win.
But they're coming off of another win with getting Julian Edelman back tonight.
Big
And
time.
Gronkowski's, been limited and not questionable for the whole week, but he's supposed to suit up as well and play. So, expect, like you said, a high-scoring Patriots offense against a, Colts offense that scored a ton of points last week. So on the Colts, who are you starting and who are you not starting? We got a few slew of injuries, so we got to definitely figure out what we're going to do here.
Yeah, I mean, we got Hilton not playing, Jack Doyle not playing, and Marlon Mack all ruled out already. So I'm starting Nyheim Hines all day. If you listen to our yesterday's podcast, I mean, we went into detail on how big of a player this guy can be out of the backfield, helping Andrew Luck, being able to dump off those passes. And I think he's going to do that tonight and catch 10 of them. I think he's catching 10 passes and could easily score a touchdown tonight. Eric Ebron, obviously, if Doyle's out, you're starting Eric Ebron every week because he's the main guy there. When it comes to tight ends, we know how much Andrew Luck loves his tight ends, so Eric Ebron, I definitely expect to get on the board. But we got a few receivers still with Hilton being out. Is there anyone that stands out to you that you really like?
Well, obviously Ryan Grant is probably the most well-known guy out there, but he actually took a back seat to Chester Rogers, who led the team in targets with 11 and had 8 receptions for 85 yards. No touchdown, but still, that's a pretty solid stat line.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
as soon as Hilton came out, Zach Pascal came in and had 10 targets. So, I mean, am I going to start them? I don't know. Daily fantasy, they're going to be so cheap with
Yep.
really high upside. So, in our league, I mean, they're definitely someone, depending on how serious Hilton's injury is, then we'll go later on. But I'm not picking these guys up unless they have a big week again.
Yeah.
And Hilton's ruled out next week as well.
But if you have a bye week and need somebody, I mean,
Take a flyer. I get crazy all the time.
Chester
Might as well go
Rogers,
too.
he could have a good night.
Yeah, he could.
Really could. So let's flip to the Patriots side. We have, like you said, they scored big W with Julian Edelman coming back this week. Are you inserting him directly into your lineup if you have him?
I am. I definitely am, and I planned on it last week until I made a trade with Julian Edelman included. So if I have Julian Edelman, I'm playing him, as well as, like I said, Gronk, Brady. And then, the running backs. What are you doing with the running backs? You have James White and Sony Michel out there. I know you really like Sony Michel this week, right?
Yeah, and James White. I like both of them a lot. I think they both have a lot of flex appeal for sure. Even RB2 for Sonny Michel just because he's getting a lot of that ground game as well. I could see them getting up and pounding the rock, and I think Sonny Michel's going to have a nice game. But James White just gets too much work out of the backfield.
I know.
So I like both those guys. And then back to receiver Josh Gordon.
Well, yeah, we've got Josh Gordon, Philip Dorsett, and Chris Hogan. I mean, out of the three of them, who would you rather
Josh
pick?
Gordon all day. Dorsett's on my shit list. And Hogan, who? I don't even know who that guy is anymore.
One target last week.
One target last week, and probably for the year because I haven't even heard his name once.
Right?
So I think with Gronk playing tonight, it could really help Josh Gordon in the prime time, or vice versa. Josh Gordon and Julian Edelman taking up some defensive players to where Gronk actually ends up having a good night tonight. So I do think they're going to end up being that. Someone on that Patriots offense is going to put in work, and I think Pats are taking this W at home.
I think it'll be a fun fantasy game for Thursday Night Football for sure.
But it sucks because you probably, I don't know, is Tyler Cedarhoff playing Nyheim Hines this week or today?
His running back situation's pretty messed up with Leonard Fournette, so I
So-
would guess that he would.
Yeah, no, and no, he doesn't have him in right now.
Who does he have ahead?
He has
Lindsey?
Philip Lindsay in right
Yeah.
now, and hold on, he might have dropped him. There's no way. Does he not have him?
Who?
Tyler Cedroth, Naeem Hines. I don't know, but he does. That's so weird. He's not starting him though. But if you have Naeem Hines, my point is probably the only guy that you probably have out of anybody on this team besides Andrew Luck or Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
So I would play him this week, but the receivers. My point is the receivers. No one has them on their team probably, so it's going to be a huge risk.
Maybe
if-
Ryan Grant.
going
but-
out and grabbing one of these guys right before Thursday
I
Night Football
know.
and playing them. But if you got the cojones, do it. And if you're in a position where you have a bye weeks and you need to do it, do it. This could be a high-flying fantasy football game. So
Definitely.
let's get into the next one here, Dill. We
Okay.
got Tennessee Titans, 3-1 Tennessee Titans going into Buffalo and taking on the 1-3 Buffalo Bills.
Let's maybe start with the Bill side, since
Yeah,
there's
might be a
really
little
nobody
Less to
there.
talk about.
Exactly, except LaShawn McCoy. I mean, LaShawn McCoy is probably the only guy that you can even consider maybe flexing.
Yeah.
Just because of it's LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, and he's healthy.
Yeah.
Is what it says. He's practicing in full. He was supposed to get a much bigger workload last week, and due to game flow, you can't mess with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. They're going to get up on you, and they had to air it out and didn't get it in LaShawn McCoy's hands as much as they should have because he is the only playmaker on that offense, in my opinion. But no one else really in that offense.
Mm-mm.
I mean, no.
No.
So let's flip to the Titans.
Yeah.
I want to preach a little bit on Derrick Henry.
Okay.
He's going into Buffalo, one of the worst run defenses in the league, one of the worst defenses in the league, period. Derrick Henry gets his first touchdown this Sunday. Start him up. I know you're scared. I know it's been rough, and you've had him on your bench, and you drafted him in the 4th round, but go get him in your lineup. I'm starting him because I think and know he's getting a touchdown this week, and I can't wait to see his points rack up over 10 points, which hasn't happened once
And
this year.
even if you have an opportunity to trade for him before this week, it's probably a good thing. He's going to start
Trade a
being on the
little low.
uproar. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to, like you've been saying, his schedule.
His schedule gets very nice on the back end, and on top of that, Mariota's playing amazing, and if he continues that, it's just going to help out Mariota in this run game so much more, which they need to lean on. And I always think Deion Lewis is going to be a decent start because
Flex
of
every week,
flex
yeah.
PPR ability coming out of that backfield. And so the receivers, we have no more Rashard Matthews, which opens up Corey Davis and Taywan Taylor's just fantasy potential so much more. We saw it last week out of Corey Davis and Taywan Taylor, both of them.
I think
Big
Taywan Taylor
big
has
target
a bigger
shares.
week this week than Corey Davis does. That's what I'm going with. So I'm firing up Taywan Taylor in my flex for sure.
Yeah, because, look who's on the one shining star of that Buffalo defense, lining up probably against Corey Davis.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a tougher matchup for Corey Davis, but I mean, he's pretty good. I'll
He
give
can
it to him.
get separation a bit, and he's just such a possession guy. Like, that
He's
ball gets in
big.
the air,
Yeah.
he's snatching it. So I could see both of them having a decent day. Anyone against Buffalo, I'm firing up. So I like everybody this week on the Tennessee Titans offense. I really, really do.
Yeah,
I think you should be confident starting these guys.
Titans
even
defense
Derrick
is a
Henry.
really good start this week as well.
Totally. So Titans all day in this one, I think.
Mhm. I'm agreeing with you.
But we never know. Buffalo will just
I think
probably come
Buffalo
out
got
and-
their one of the year. They lucked out against the Vikings. I don't know if they might get another one or two.
What a
but
game. That was crazy.
I know. But anyways, let's move on to the next one. Giants at Carolina. Carolina had a bye week last week. You have Cam, so that kind of sucked for you. You had to drop a couple players, but
Brutal.
you get them back this week in a really, really good matchup against the Giants. So
Yep.
why don't you talk a little bit about the Panthers offense and what you're doing with them?
Well, deploying them,
Yeah.
having them back is so nice. A week without Cam is brutal. I missed you, Cam. So Cam is going to make this offense eat against this Giants defense who's been subpar. Christian McCaffrey obviously is about to go ham, but who I'm really looking forward to is Devin Funchess. I think he has himself a night. And someone who's on your waiver wire that I love and I dropped 2 weeks ago is DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore coming out of this bye week is going to be someone that really shines this week and going to be a hot waiver wire commodity next week because they're going to start getting him involved more in this offense. He was the 4th receiver coming into the season, outplayed the third receiver, so he's right around the second, third receiver role right now. And I really think that he could step up into that guy right under Devin Funchess, and because he's just such a playmaker, so elusive. They got to start getting the ball in his hands. So like I said, watch out for DJ Moore this week. And I'm just glad Panthers got a bye week out of the way, so now we can get rolling. I love these early bye weeks. As much as I hate them, I lost this week due to it, but they're out of the way, and now I can just get the ball
and there's
rolling.
still
with
really
wins.
good waiver wire players out there. So even if you have to drop a decent player, you'll still be able to pick up another player next week. So
Yep.
it doesn't hurt too bad early on. I agree. I love the early bye weeks. But let's move over to the Giants. Obviously you're starting Odell, you're starting Barkley on a weekly basis. What about Sterling Shepard this week? Are you rolling him out as well?
I do see regression. Like last week was a huge week for him, and I love Sterling
10
Shepard.
targets and 10 catches. Like, he caught everything.
I definitely think he's worth a flex every week. But Carolina's defense is solid. We know this. I think they're gonna get to Eli Manning quickly. Lots of blitzes. They're gonna eat Eli up, which is gonna make it really difficult on the passing game. They're gonna be doing these dump off passes to Odell. Hopefully Sterling gets involved in there too, but I'm not looking for that. I don't think Sterling's gonna have that 20, 22 plus point game. And let's talk about the tight end. Evan Ingram still out. He has an MCL sprain, and that hurts. You drafted Evan Ingram probably pretty decently high, 8th round or so. So
He was, one of the top 5 tight ends taken off the board.
So looking at that, it's going to be tough. I think Rhett Ellison is the backup tight end there, and he is not getting any work whatsoever. So therefore, I really feel like Saquon's going to be a big part of this game. But
catching the ball.
That's the thing. Eli's gonna be dumping these balls off because Carolina's gonna be bringing the pressure. So Saquon could have 10 catches, Odell could have 10 catches on 15 targets. I definitely think these 3 guys, Sterling, Odell, and Saquon, are gonna eat just due to the passing game. And Cam Newton's gonna be firing, so they're gonna be playing from behind, probably trying to air it out. In my opinion,
I'm going Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina will be tough to beat at home. Let's go to the next one here. We got Miami Dolphins coming off an ugly game, going into Cincinnati and playing against Red Rifle, who's extremely hot right now.
He is. He's firing on all cylinders right now, and I'm gonna throw him out there and play him. Obviously, the Dolphins defense started out pretty hot. We're definitely a solid D, not only in real life, but even fantasy purposes.
Definitely.
But
you're about to talk about Minka Fitzpatrick.
No, 99 overall. I mean, come on. But anyways.
So, on the Cincinnati side, let's start there.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon. He is coming off orthopedic surgery or whatever, so he's been in the air. We don't know if he's going to play yet or not this week. He was in full pads at practice, but he's limited, not really doing a lot in practice, so it's going to be interesting watching as the time comes to see if he's going to play or not. I'm not playing him this week if he plays due to his first week being back. They're still going to be using Giovanni Bernard in a timeshare. I think at least the first week Joe Mixon's back playing.
Gio did get knocked out, though, last game, so he is a little banged up. And
coming off a huge game, though.
He is, man. He's coming off a huge game. And then, obviously the Miami Dolphins aren't very good against the run either. So, I don't know. A lot of the people had Mixon as their RB1, maybe RB2. So they might be desperate to play him. And, I mean, I don't think...
And I could see why. And he definitely has the ability to get you those points, too. I just don't know who. Is it him or him? And it could be a RBBC. So this week I'm steering clear away from the backfield, but I want to get into the receivers. Obviously AJ Green, but talk about picking up someone on the waiver wire who could just take you to a fantasy championship. Tyler Boyd, man, he is putting together a great beginning of the season, and I mean I'm in awe, honestly. I mean, he's had 11 and 15 last game. He had 15 targets, caught 11 of them. If he's not a weekly flex for you on the border of a wide receiver 2, I don't know what is. I mean, that guy can definitely play, and I think you can be comfortable starting him in this game and moving forward as well.
Yeah, and obviously with the injury to Tyler Eifert last week, it opens up a nice opportunity for this group of tight ends. Once again, Dalton loves to throw to the tight end, especially in the red zone. Last year was Tyler Kroft, but he seems to have taken a back seat to CJ Uzomah. I don't even know how to say his last name, but he looked decent. He didn't do much last week, but he was on the field. he ran, I think, 20-something routes as to Tyler Croft's 4.
Yeah.
So it shows that they kind of wanted to get him involved. So he's definitely someone, if you need a tight end to keep an eye on, he might, be able to put something together for you. Last year, Croft averaged like 9 points a game for tight ends. And
I streamed him most of the year
yeah,
last
and
year.
he ended up as like, I want to say like the 10th or 11th rated tight end last year. So, they obviously produce in that offense. But yeah, starting a decent amount of players. I think you could start on both sides, going over to the Dolphin side. Tannehill was knocked out of the game last week, but do you think he plays this week?
He will play this week. They came out and said
Yeah.
he will be starting this week. 11 for 20, 100 yards, and 2 turnovers before halftime last week. So he was taken out of the game, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not, obviously, I doubt anybody across the world is starting Tannehill in fantasy this week, but someone who I really want to discuss is Kenyon Drake. People drafted Kenyon Drake decently high. Top 5 rounds, I think.
I think, real quick, before we leave Tannehill, I think he is a start this week. I think you can if you need to. Obviously, there's only a couple bye weeks this week with Bucks and Bears, which you're not playing really either of those quarterbacks, so you probably don't have to, but I think he does have a pretty decent week, especially, for daily fantasy or something. The Bengals defense has been pretty nice to quarterbacks, giving up, 6 most points in the league. So I think he's definitely someone to play in a daily fantasy. He's probably cheaper than, 90% of the quarterbacks out there too.
Wow.
So
all right. Well, so back to Kenyon Drake. Is he droppable?
I mean, I've got him in 2 or 3 leagues. I can't drop him. I drafted him to be my RB2, So I keeping him on my bench, but I'm definitely not dropping him until, two or 3 carries last week. That's a little scary, but
Very scary.
and then the week before that it was similar. So yeah, he might be on the fringe of drop.
Or is this a freaking huge game out of him and he's a starter every week? from
Yeah,
this point on?
or this is the time to. It's now or never if you want to take a shot on Drake and give up some decent value for him. He's not worth much right now, so if someone's willing to trade him for,
Which I think they will. I think this
so,
guy's
too.
a buy low candidate, and anything happens to Frank Gore, Kenyon Drake's 100% that running back in that backfield. So this guy, and he could just break out this week,
I
and
know.
then there that goes. So keep an eye out for Kenyon Drake. I'm saying, he could be on the potential of droppable and on the same time of the cusp of breaking
He's
out.
good,
so.
man. Like, he's got talent. So if he can just put it together, man.
Yeah.
Or if he can just get some touches.
Definitely.
What are you supposed to do with 3 touches?
Nothing.
No.
Well,
unless
Nick
you're-
Chubb
unless you're Nick Chubb.
scored 2 touchdowns, 150 yards. But anyways, let's get to the receivers.
Yeah.
Since you do like Tannehill this week as a bounce back candidate, you have Kenny Stills, you have Albert Wilson, you have a Devontae Parker back, you have a Jakeem Grant, who I love, who probably isn't fantasy startable. But out of the first three I mentioned, is there anybody there that you are starting or flexing or anything this week?
Well, Devontae Parker was a surprise inactive last week because of his hamstring or whatever the problem's been. So I don't know about that guy. He's, once again, a first-round talent that has so much potential. And, we've both been high on for the last few years, but it's the same thing every week. Injury. But
so
I mean,
let's
Kenny
call it then.
Stills.
Kenny Stills, Albert Wilson. What are you thinking out of the two?
Well,
Who
Kenny
would you
Stills
rather
is
deploy?
leading the team in targets every week. So, opportunity is everything. And I think that Kenny Stills is able to get a big play off these Bengals. They've given up a few big plays this year too, especially like Atlanta with Calvin Ridley. I believe that was a game he scored 3 touchdowns. So I'm sorry, that was. Anyways, Calvin Ridley had a pretty decent game against the Bengals, and I think that Kenny Stills does get a big score this week. So he'll give you 15 plus points.
Wow.
Other than that, besides him, Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant, those guys are making plays and getting points here and there, but
Yeah.
it's off limited opportunity. So definitely rolling with him. And
I got Jakeem Grant, the highest fantasy wide receiver on that offense this week.
Wow, okay. Well, I think that
In my
Stills,
opinion.
gets a big touchdown. Jakeem Grant could get 2 big touchdowns, so we'll see. But anyways, I'm gonna go with the 3-1 Bengals at home taking this one. I think it'll be a high scoring game.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Bengals at home are a good bet. So I'm probably going to go with them too, but I'm very intrigued by Ryan Tannehill and the rest of this offense. I
Yeah.
think, watch Kenyon Drake ball out. I have a
hope.
feeling.
I hope.
All right, let's get into the next one, Dill. We got the 1-2-1 Cleveland Browns taking on the the 3-1 Baltimore Ravens, who have been looking really good. I
Yeah.
think Baltimore is a definitely playoff contender and even to go deep into the playoffs, honestly. Their defense is looking good, and not to mention another Christmas present, Jimmy Smith, baby.
Oh,
He had a
yeah.
4-game suspension, first game back as well. So we're talking about an elite defense, now even more elite with one of the best corners in the league, Jimmy Smith, coming back. So that's scary, in my opinion, going up against rookie Baker Mayfield in his second start of the year. Where should we start? Let's start with the Browns, Dill.
do it.
Let's start with these guys. I think let's start here with Baker. He's gonna get work. He's gonna try his hardest, obviously, and I think they're gonna be playing from behind, so they're gonna be just airing the ball out. So this could make for a decent game for Baker Mayfield. But I do see something similar to last week. Decent amount of turnovers, like 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, or something along those lines. And he ends up with a mediocre 14 to 18 points, 18 being his absolute, I think, ceiling, in my opinion. Jarvis Landry banged up as he is every week, so we'll see how that works out. But before that, let's get into the running back still. Nick Chubb getting a lot of hype, obviously off his three whole touches. But I'm not exactly buying it yet just because I believe Carlos Hyde still has that job and looking amazing.
Yeah, it's not like he looks bad at all. I mean,
No.
he's making the most of his opportunities, and I mean, Chubb. It's very small sample size. They can give him the ball 3 times this week and get 3 yards. But at the same time, when he makes those big plays, it's got to get the coaches thinking, we got to get the ball to this guy if he's going to make these plays. And if he continues to make these plays, then that's, like you said, that's when you got to buy, you got to pick up, you got to trade, whatever you got to do.
And I think his target share, or, he will start to get that more work. Hugh, or their offensive coordinator, someone came out and said that they need to get him the ball more, obviously, making so much with so little. But I don't think I'm completely sold on Chubb to go buy him necessarily right now. I would stash him on my roster if you have the spot, and just because he's one injury away from being a number 1 running back.
Yeah, or just, a couple more big plays to being,
A
splitting carries,
definitely.
RBBC, and then slow. But he's a rookie, they want to get him the ball.
Yeah.
But someone we're not talking about is Duke, who I think can have a pretty decent game because I think that the Browns get down and they're going to have to throw the ball a decent amount.
Baker looked comfortable throwing it to Duke. He
Yeah.
put this ball, you probably didn't see it. I was watching that game because I had Baker Mayfield starting last week. But Duke came out of the backfield and ran a fade route down the sideline. And Baker Mayfield put that ball on a dime. Duke just looked up and had his arms out, and the ball landed right in his palm. And then Duke got cracked down the sideline. But it was such a beautiful ball, and it just shows how confident Baker Mayfield is in his arm and in Duke Johnson, obviously. So I do like Duke weekly as a PPR guy, especially this week. But let's get to those receivers on Cleveland. Jarvis Landry is getting an insane amount of targets, as he should. Josh Gordon's gone. We understand that. But Callaway, on the other hand, he dropped many balls last week. They came out saying that he's probably going to get a little less offensive work just because he's not shining like he was supposed to. He did get banged up as well. I'm nervous about this passing game because Ravens coming into this game already are giving up the 4th fewest receiving yards in the league. That wasn't with Jimmy Smith. They have Jimmy Smith now. They could possibly be the first number 1 defense against passing by midseason, in my opinion. So this would be a tough match for the Cleveland Browns. So why don't we jump into the other side, the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, with the Ravens, Joe Flacco playing really good,
Lights
really
out.
well. Lamar Jackson, obviously, drafting him, lit something under Joe's little behind because he wasn't doing much for a while. But I think that Joe Flacco is a start this week, and I think he's a weekly start from this point forward. I mean, obviously, depending on the matchups, but if it's a team like the Browns, which they've obviously given up a decent amount of points this year, then Flacco's definitely someone that you could throw in there and play. Really, what I want to talk about is the running back situation. Obviously, Alex Collins, I was pretty high on at the beginning of the year. He was a solid running back last year. Got tons of work. Everyone talked about him being that 3-down back. He is splitting down the middle, carries, touches with Javorius Allen right now.
Buck.
And it's definitely nerve-wracking, especially if you're a Collins owner when Allen's on the goal line getting goal line touches. When that's Alex Collins' forte, that's what he does. He pounds it in. But fumbling issues.
Not even to mention, he hasn't carried the ball over 11 times
I know.
even once this year. You talk about needing work and have to get the ball in order to make stuff happen, especially for a running back. This guy hasn't ran the ball more than 11 times, and he's supposed to be that running back in that offense. There's no way. I'm trading him for half a bag of Skittles if I can, because to me, that's just not worth it for me. I think Allen, it turns into a 70-30. Allen becomes the guy in this offense. As sad as that is, because I do love Alex Collins. I think he's a great runner, hard runner, but he's just not fitting in. He's just not doing his job, and it seriously scares me. I'm glad I'm not an Alex Collins owner.
Yeah, I was. I made some things happen. But I still, have him in our Dynasty League, and I'm not giving up on him like that. I don't think it goes to a 70-30. I think, if anything, it stays at 50-50.
Okay, maybe 60-40.
But
That was a bit too.
But it's nerve-wracking, especially with Kenneth Dixon on the IR designated to return. Everyone keeps talking highly about him for the next, for a while now. We'll see what he can do. He obviously is a decent player, but you just never know. You never know. They've been talking about him for years. But anyways, let's talk about the receivers. John Brown obviously balling out every week in and week out, so I'm starting him.
The guy to own.
But Michael Crabtree, on the other hand, look, last week Joe Flacco and Crabtree are not on the same page. I mean, last week I think he caught 3 balls for like 29 yards. He still got a decent amount of targets with like 8 or something like that. But still, it's definitely nerve-wracking. If I'm a Crabtree owner, obviously I'm not dropping him or anything. I would hold on to him. And he's still, I think, a flex on a weekly basis based off of touchdown potential. He is a red zone monster. So
he is. And, I thought last game, being on prime time, I thought for sure he would end up in the end zone and didn't. And that's why I still am leading to believe that John Brown, like we've been preaching, is the guy to own in a weekly start in this offense, because Joe Flacco is obviously comfortable throwing him the ball, and John Brown looks so healthy. It reminds me of his young Arizona days where he was shredding defenses every weekend, and I'm loving it. I'm loving watching this John Brown. So he's a top 50 fantasy player right now.
Yeah, he's playing really well. And
lights out.
Fire him up.
Fire him up. Let's get into the next one here. We got a huge divisional
Who you taking
matchup.
real quick?
Sorry.
Ravens?
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
Yep. Huge divisional matchup here. We got the Detroit Lionesses going up against the big old bad Green Bay Packers. So it's going to be a tough game, tough divisional matchup. We're traveling to Detroit to play this game. And Detroit, mind you, they're only 1-3, but that offense is scary. They have been playing that lights out. Their defense, on the other hand, is what's not giving them the opportunity to win games, in my opinion. But that offense is playing ridiculous. Golden Tate playing lights out. I mean,
they given up the least amount of fantasy points to receivers, yet they're still giving up so many points in general. So
start up your tight ends and running backs.
Yeah,
yeah. So that is an interesting statistic, and because of the fact they're losing so many games, But obviously, their receivers, we love Golden Tate. We love Kenny Golladay. My question mark is kind of around Marvin Jones right now, just because it seems like he's that third guy now, in a sense. Even though he's still getting work, I still like all 3 of them. I think all 3 of them are definitely worth the start. But it's hard to decide who's the guy besides Golden Tate. I think Golden Tate's the clear-cut fantasy
he's a weekly
stud,
But I'm not giving up on Marvin Jones. He had more targets than Golladay last week. Golladay did end up with more yards, and
that's how it'll go.
It is. One week one's going to do well, the next week the others. It just really depends on who's covering who and who's going to be open, Marvin Jones he's a good receiver. It's not like he sucks this year. It's just he's not getting
it's just
10 plus targets.
Exactly. They're comfortable with Golladay and Tate, and they're just spreading the ball out, and that's where I want to get into spreading the ball around. Their running backs. They have a full-fledged RBBC. Yeah. Patricia came out and said Kerryon Johnson's getting tons of work, yet he only got 20 snaps. So that just goes to show they're so comfortable using Theo, using Blunt. They're going to use all 3 of the running backs all season, and it's working for them. It really is. And I guess it's not
really.
Actually. they're losing, but they are scoring though. Their offense is so potent, and they're getting down the field. So I do believe it is working for their offense, but they just got to figure out some other stuff to get some wins on the board.
Well, it's crazy because Kerryon Johnson's like his yards per carry are like double of LeGarrette Blount. So that being said, sooner than later, Kerryon Johnson is going to be majority owner of that backfield. But at the time, it's probably the messiest RBBC out of anyone right now. I mean, like you said, Patricia came out and said how comfortable he was with what he was giving everyone. So that is a little nerve-wracking. I want to trade for Kerryon Johnson, but I'm still beware.
I just, we've seen it too many times with these running backs in Detroit. We think they're going to break out.
Like
and
coming from the New England system. Same thing.
So, I do think that once Blunt is gone, Kerryon Johnson will be the guy. But I just don't see this year, unless a crazy injury happens, I don't see Kerryon Johnson taking over that whole role yet. But down the road, for sure. He's an amazing running back. I love him. But
I think by end of the year, he'll be that guy.
But I don't want Detroit to win, so I don't even care about them getting stats up or anything, because let's switch to that Packers side. Go Pack, go! Obviously, starting Aaron Rodgers, you're starting Devontae Adams. Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison are both questionable and both dealing with injuries coming out of last week's game. So there's going to be some young bucks playing if Geronimo and Randall don't play. Someone you really got to keep your eye on is obviously Mike McCarthy came out and said Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's the guy to watch out for.
That's a tongue twister, huh?
A little bit. He can really. He was one of the best receivers in preseason, and I think he's separated himself from the rest of the rookies that we drafted this year. Other ones too. Equanimus St. Brown, another tongue twister from Notre Dame. That guy's a stud.
He's a hometown guy here, Southern California.
But I feel like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I'm gonna go the MVS on him. He just separated himself. Last week he played 54 out of 76 snaps in the slot last week. We didn't even you're not really thinking about that, but he already is getting major work in this offense. So now having the opportunity to see even more of a share in targets, I think this could be a huge daily fantasy start if Geronimo and Randall Cobb don't play. So cheap, like dirt cheap, and he can put you up 20 points. You never know. So I do like that about the Packers, and I do think that they're going to come into this game and battle it out with the Detroit Lions. But let's talk about the running. Talk about an RBBC on both sides of this spectrum. Yeah. I love an Aaron Jones coming into this game. Obviously, it's just interesting how Mike McCarthy's working Aaron Jones into the game. Jamal Williams is getting the start every week and playing basically the first half as the starter with Ty Montgomery involved. And then it seems like getting into the end of the second quarter, getting into the second half, they start to really, really unleash Aaron Jones, which I like because the defense doesn't know what to expect. All these different running backs here, there, doing this, doing that. It's really working well for our offense, and I hope we really keep the ball rolling and we get another W in a nasty Detroit arena. To come out of there with a win will be huge in our division. So it's going to be a tough battle. I really think that this is going to be Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers going ham for ham, touchdown for touchdown, just airing it out. We have some guys on defense on the Packers that are banged up. Detroit has some banged up defensive players as well, so this will be I think, an offensive powered game in my opinion.
Fun.
I got Packers going into Detroit and winning, obviously. So
go Pack, go.
Let's get into the next one. We got a big matchup here, Dill. We got the 4-0 Pat Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs taking on the 3-1 Jacksonville Jags. Who you got? What do you like? Let's start with Kansas City. Talk to me.
I think it's going to be kind of like the Broncos-Chiefs game that just happened. Lower scoring. I don't think Mahomes is going to throw 5-6 touchdowns like he's been doing.
No.
Jacksonville's defense is pretty solid. But, yeah, let's start maybe on the Jacksonville side of the ball. Blake Bortles without Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette has already been ruled out. So, obviously, Bortles, when without Fournette, huge boost. Also, Yeldon, huge boost. If you have Yeldon, you're starting this week, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then Corey Grant. Obviously, this guy is that pass-catching back and whatnot. He's shown to have pretty decent games. He might be a nice DFS start. Very, very cheap. If for some way Patrick Mahomes has that magic and ends up scoring, 3-4 touchdowns, and Jags have to throw the ball a lot, it might be a bigger game for him. But I want to talk about the receivers. We talked about D.D. Westbrook in our waiver wire. Is he your top guy this week out of that receiving core?
Definitely, yeah. I really think that Bortles loves throwing the ball and is comfortable throwing the ball to D.D. Westbrook. And like I talked about in our last podcast, the yards after catch with D.D., he's not that possession guy that just trying to catch it and brace for the hit. He is giving the hit and trying to get those extra yards. So I'm really loving D.D. Westbrook in that offense.
Would you rather go with Moncrief or Keelan Cole?
Probably this week, Keelan Cole, because he was a little quiet last week, and I do think they get him the ball. And Moncrief is just too hard for me to deploy because I really don't know what to expect out of him. Whereas Keelan Cole, you can expect that upside because we know we have 2 weeks ago. He was the face of SportsCenter making that Odell catch. So
Talk
I definitely
about making
think
plays. He is a playmaker.
he's a
as well.
playmaker. So I definitely think Cole has the edge on Moncrief this week for sure.
All right, let's move on to the Kansas City side of the ball. Obviously, they have their core group of offensive stars that you can start on a weekly basis. Who are you starting? Who are you not starting this week in that offense?
Quickly, I want to touch base on Mahomes, and I want to call Mahomes throwing his first interception of the season against this Jacksonville Jaguars D. And I just wanted to say that. But going into this, I'm starting everybody for the most part. You know, you got Mahomes, you're starting. You got Hill, you're starting. You got Kelsey, you're starting, and you got Kareem Hunt. You're starting all of them. I mean, there's no one in there that I don't like this week, even against the Jacksonville Jags defense. I think Mahomes and that offense is so young and hungry. They're not intimidated by these Jacksonville Jaguars. I watched the interview with Tyreek Hill yesterday. He's like, I hope Jalen Ramsey covers me one-on-one. I hope he presses me because, and he didn't say all this, but I know that Tyreek Hill's thinking, I'll burn him one-on-one. And Tyreek Hill's the fastest man on the planet in the NFL for sure. So, you know, that scares me. I definitely think that he has the potential to beat this Jacksonville defense just simply because of speed. So, and with with Mahomes' long ball, big arm, I think that no problem.
What about Sammy Watkins? He's been practicing. He seems to be feeling better. Seems like he's going to play this week. Are you going to deploy him too or no?
Bouye is going to shut him down. And either way, Ramsey, Bouye, wherever he's on, I think they both have the edge over Sammy Watkins. As much as I do love Sammy Watkins, I think Tyreek Hill is the only guy, and Kelsey are the only two guys in that offense that are going to be able to get it done against this scary Jacksonville defense who's, given up the least amount of yards, basically, our third least in the NFL.
Who you going in this game, Jags or Chiefs?
I definitely think Jags give the Kansas City Chiefs their first loss at home, just simply due to defensive gameplay. Mahomes isn't going to be ready for it. Mahomes almost threw his first interception last week. I don't know how he didn't. The ball was just in midair. But even with an interception, I think Jacksonville and that offense, Kansas City's defense is so weak right now that I just feel like Jacksonville, they're going to get it going. They're going to find ways to get themselves the ball because of defense and control that game and really start and give Kansas City their first loss at home.
Yep, I'm going with Jags as well. Moving on to the next boring offensive matchup of the week, we got the Broncos at the Jets.
You own half the Broncos team.
I know, and that's why I'm sitting everyone. I'm just kidding, but let's start with that Broncos side of the ball.
Definitely.
Case Keenum, obviously the $18 million man, was supposed to come be their savior. Yeah, it's not happening. He is playing so mediocre. Obviously, at 2-2, you can't be too disappointed in the play of the team, but I don't know. Obviously, you're not starting Keenum ever. Even in good matchups, it's tough to start him until he starts proving himself like he did last year. But let's talk about the running backs. This is another RBBC. We got Royce Freeman, who I still think has tons of potential for the rest of the year.
Definitely.
And then Phillip Lindsay, who I believe he's one of the top 5 rushing guys in the league. So he's definitely getting work, and when he gets work, he makes the most out of it. He's a freaking hard runner, man. Like, that guy is small but mighty.
Definitely. Quick, man. He's lightning.
Yeah, so, I mean, on a weekly basis, he's definitely a flex, and I think Royce Freeman is as well. I mean,
I think in trade-wise, I think Royce is someone you can buy low on. In a sense, I mean, obviously people drafted him in a decently high round, so they might be holding on to that. But Royce hasn't done anything up until that touchdown yesterday. And on that touchdown, woo, he looked like a beast.
Dude.
So I think that's something that, I mean, Phillip Lindsay is obviously a loose cannon, thrown out of one game already. And he's so explosive that, it'll be interesting if anything plays out. And we just get an update right now, saying Royce Freeman has to get more touches in this offense. And Vance Joseph came out, and I, from offseason, said Vance Joseph has a man crush on Royce Freeman. So I do see Royce, and this being even more of an RBBC, split. So, but Lindsay, on the other hand, Lindsay is ridiculous. And I think because that defense is so mediocre right now, as sad as that is, I really thought with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller that would be just a wrecking ball on defense. But their defense is mediocre up until this point. They're going to be playing from behind in a lot of games, which I could see Philip Lindsay just feasting on. Those PPR, little dump-off passes, getting him the ball in a lot of ways. So I really, really do like Philip Lindsay moving forward, and I would buy him as well.
Yeah, if you can. Receivers.
Well, I'll leave that one with you, big boy.
Sad music, enter. Demaryius Thomas. You're killing me, man. You're killing me, man. Emmanuel Sanders, I think he's a start every week. I'm confident in him. Last week it wasn't the best game.
I'm just kidding.
He's like a wide receiver 2, you know. Some games, wide receiver 3. But obviously, Emmanuel Sanders can make plays with the ball in his hands. Demaryius Thomas can't even get the ball in his hands. Drops everything, so he can't make anything happen. Cortland Sutton is someone I want to talk about. He's not getting tons of looks, but he's making the most. I think last week 3 receptions for 51 yards on 6 targets.
It seemed like he got a lot more than that. Like every time I heard them call his name,
I
Sutton
know.
again. I was like,
It
damn.
seems like Sutton and Keenum are on a better page than Demaryius Thomas and Keenum. So.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking. You told me a stat yesterday. Demaryius has the most drops in the league since he entered. So that's also nerve-wracking. I know he struggled for a while, but then he had those really consistent years, but it's been a couple down years. So, you know, fantasy, one year you could be the best, next year you could be the worst.
Damn right.
So, Demaryius Thomas, I'm sitting him this week. I'm not starting him until he proves otherwise.
Even against the Jets D?
Even against the Jets D. They've been decent against the outside receivers, and that's why I think Emmanuel Sanders
I feel
has
like
a
to
decent
start
game.
the year they were, and then like the last 2 weeks, I just feel like they've fallen off.
Stats wise, I mean, overall, but
So when are you gonna
it's
give
tough.
me Demaryius then?
I'll give him to you for Mark Ingram.
Do you guys hear what I'm dealing with? He is like, I can't even start him. I can't even F this guy, and he's trying to get Mark Ingram and
But
RB1 out of
Let's
me.
talk about their schedule. You know, they have such an
They do.
amazing schedule.
They really do.
So,
that doesn't mean anything.
For
You can't
receivers,
get the
that's
ball
why
in
I
your
just
hand.
don't want to get rid of him, because I'm going to get rid of him and he's going to ball out the rest of the year. I'd rather have him on my bench balling out than on someone else's team for a half bag of Skittles. Anyways, let's move over to Jeff Heuerman. Tight end for the Broncos, came in for Jeff Butt because of his injury. Did pretty decently last week. Had 4 receptions on 7 targets and 57 yards. So he's definitely someone that you might potentially be able to stream later on in the year. But obviously hold off on him for the time being. Jets. 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 Anyways, Darnold. 2 terrible weeks in a row. Do you think it's a third against this Broncos D?
I think he has a steady game. I don't think it's anything crazy. I do like Quincy Enunwa a lot, though. He had 8 targets last week, and Darnold is definitely showing that he is his favorite target. So without a doubt, I am liking Enunwa, and I think Darnold has a decent game. So therefore, I'm really liking Enunwa as really the only guy in this offense I want to start.
I mean, and at the end of the day, let's talk about the running backs real quick. Crowell, 0 yards last week on only 4 touches. Bilal Powell, 2 games in a row now, has started over Crowell. Obviously, they both don't have very much value, but I think if anyone, Powell does have some flex appeal.
Yeah, but Crowell's getting all the goal line work.
Exactly.
So that's what makes it so tough.
I
I'm
know.
steering clear away from anybody in this offense besides Quincy Enunwa, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a scary offense to be a part of. I'm going to go with the Broncos winning this game
Me too.
in New York. Moving on to the next, I think this might be one of the biggest scoring games of the week.
I'm just going to go ahead and say start everybody.
I know,
How much
right?
do we need to cover with
Right?
this?
I
I mean,
mean,
I really think Atlanta Falcons going
besides-
against Pittsburgh,
We got Devontae Freeman coming back this
that's
week.
the one subject
So
where
I
we
think
need to
that's
talk
really
about.
that we need to cover. Are you starting Devontae Freeman coming back from injury?
If I have him, hell yeah, I
You
am.
bet.
You bet I
You
am.
bet.
You drafted him like your RB1. You damn right I'm deploying him, especially against this Pittsburgh defense who hasn't been that great against any. What?
What do you do with Tevin Coleman?
I play him too.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact I think it's a split down the middle this week,
Yeah.
getting Devontae back. Devontae still has that touchdown goal line appeal, and Tevin Coleman still has that PPR get him down the field appeal. So I like both of them this week going against the Pittsburgh. Like you said, I think this is going to be a big airing the ball out game, to which I think they can utilize both backs out of the backfield for success.
I
So
know. Ridley
I'm straight up.
starting,
I'm
Jones
going to start
starting,
everybody.
Sanu. and even Hooper. I think Hooper gets a touchdown this week.
Yep.
Moving
then-
on to Pittsburgh, same thing.
Same thing. Connor, Brown, Juju, James Washington. You're not starting because he's not there yet. But the big
Vance
one that I want to talk
McDonald.
about is Vance McDonald, who is a hot waiver wire pickup this week. And even though we're saying Vance, it'll probably be Jesse this week, so I'm staying away from those tight ends. But I think if you're in a position where you need to start one, you can start either one just because you don't know which one's going to go off. But if you need to start one, start one. Jesse James or Vance McDonald, either one can have, some points for you.
Yeah, man, and they're both needing a win desperately. So
yeah,
this
one
is going
and
to
three
be
and 1 and 2
fighting
and 1.
for,
That's crazy.
yeah. I'm going with.
I got Pitt at home.
Man, I'm going with Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. Let's go.
I like that, and I hope that's the case because then they're gonna even more think, "Wow, we need Lev Bell. We need Lev Bell back," and that would be a great thing.
I know, right? But all right, moving on to the next game. Oakland at Chargers. Once again, I think I'm firing up all cylinders for both teams. I'm starting Derek Carr, Marshawn Lynch, Amari Cooper, Jordy Nelson,
Mhm.
and the leading tight end of the league, Jared Cook.
Sure deal.
I mean, yeah, you can fire them all up. Chargers defense is pretty solid, but they
They give up a lot at the same time.
they gave up a ton of points to the 49ers. CJ Beathard, who? So I think that the Oakland offense will score this week, but on the other hand, I think that the Chargers offense will score as well, being able to deploy both Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon on a weekly basis, as well as, obviously receivers. That's the one question mark. Keenan Allen start every week, but Mike Williams,
Bounce back.
for sure.
Hell yeah, he's
Bounce
gonna
back
have a
for
great
sure.
game. I know after last week, everyone had him in their lineup because they were so comfortable with
He's
him.
been killing it.
You're scared this week, I understand, but don't be. This is a very favorable matchup. I think this is going to be. Derek Carr threw 58 passes last week, 437 yards for 4 touchdowns. Phillip Rivers is going to be airing this ball. This is going to be a high-scoring game on both sides of the ball. Mike Dubs is getting in the end zone again. No doubt. Start everybody. Start them all, in my opinion.
I'm going Chargers at home.
I agree. Start everybody.
All right, Minnesota at Philadelphia. Rematch of the NFC Championship of last year, but we've added Kirk Cousins to the mix. So, how do you think this game goes? Do you think it's more of a defensive matchup, or do you think it's a higher scoring matchup?
I think that the defense is going to prevail, and both defenses are pretty solid in this game, but I do think Philadelphia has the edge, and just simply because what I saw the Rams do to the Vikings defense last week. I thought the Vikings defense was so solid, but I'm like, they have holes. People now,
no
because
Everson Griffin, no Xavier Rhodes in and out of the lineup.
so yeah, and due to that, obviously there's going to be so much opportunity for these opposing offenses to put in work, not to mention the reigning Super Bowl champs and a Carson Wentz who's just looking so sharp right now. So I got Eagles at home, and I'm starting everybody as well. I think Ajayi gets into the end zone this week. Alshon, all this talk about questionable hurt, this, that. Bullshit. This guy, no matter what it says, if he plays, when he plays, first game back, he put up, 8 receptions, over 100 yards and a touchdown?
Yep.
Get out of here. All day with Alshon. But if Alshon, anything does happen, Alshon doesn't play, I'm starting Aguilar all day because of that potential for target shares. But if Alshon plays, I'm only playing Alshon.
Yeah, I think that Aguilar is more of just a flex from this point forward, just because of targets.
Yeah.
Dallas Goedert. Yeah, no.
Got
He's
me
going to have
nothing
those.
last week.
Yeah,
I
he's
needed
gonna-
him 1 week, but yeah, no. I think obviously Ertz
up
all
and down,
day.
up and down. And then obviously for the Minnesota offense, I'm firing all cylinders with the receivers, with Rudolph, their weekly starts, no matter what the matchup is. But this backfield with Dalvin Cook, still not 100%. Are you playing him?
Hell no. And
No.
if you're a Dalvin Cook owner, you are so mad you drafted him because he ain't done diddly squat for you. And I think because of these injuries that are just popping up everywhere, Latavius Murray, if he's on your waiver wires, you better go grab him because he could be seeing a lot more work coming up in these weeks. And I'm so glad I don't own Dalvin because
Me too. I was so close to drafting him, but I went with Devontae Adams instead, which I'm happy I did.
great call. But, Dalvin Cook, I'm sorry for you guys, the owners of Dalvin Cook, because it is not looking good for you guys. Even though he looked great. He looks explosive. Dalvin Cook is an amazing runner, but due to injuries, that's what's going to happen. He is so just not getting anything due to injuries, so I don't like it.
Yeah. I'm going Eagles in that game. What
Yeah.
about you?
Me too.
Next game, Rams at Seahawks. Once again, all Rams.
We got one before that. We have Arizona at San Francisco. Before we get into your Rams game, I know you're excited. You just want to jump into things. But real quick, Arizona at San Francisco. We got Josh Rosen, who's coming off a decent game. I really think Josh Rosen didn't get much help from his teammates last week. He threw only one touchdown. 2 touchdown passes dropped. Larry Fitzgerald dropped one, and J.J. Nelson dropped one in the end zone dropped. So that's very scary for me. Josh Rosen needs some more help in this offense, but he 15 for 27, 180 yards and a touchdown, which should have been 3 touchdowns. I like it, and I definitely like it against the San Francisco 49ers as well. I don't love it, though, because 49ers have actually been pretty good against the pass defense. So I think this week I'm just going DJ on that Arizona offense, and I'm sure obviously you
Yeah,
are
I think
too.
he's the only one on a weekly basis you can start for right now.
Yep. But flipping to that Niners side, Chris Godwin got hurt last week. It'll be interesting to see if he plays or not, but he hasn't done anything this year anyway. But someone who could really take up a big target share is Kendrick Bourne, who's going to be stepping up for Marquise Goodwin if he doesn't play this week. So keep an eye out or an ear out for Kendrick Bourne. Beathard, on the other hand, quarterback stepping up for Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought Chargers was the best play last week because they were playing San Fran, and look what he did to that defense. So don't sleep on Beathard by any means. He has a great connection with Kittle, who's your boy. They roomed together in college, I believe, right? Yeah. So they got a great connection. He threw for 300 yards with 2 TDs last week. But mind you, Arizona's defense is really solid. They've only let up 1 touchdown the last 3 weeks.
Wow, not bad.
So that's pretty impressive.
Well, 1 touchdown.
Passing touchdown. No? San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco.
So, talking about the running backs, though, let's get into the running backs here. Just less than a week ago, you and Tyler Cederoth, bull, Alfred Morris. Morris is the guy. Not. Breida all day, right?
Yeah, I mean,
lion share, he's getting, it's
I just don't think
more timeshare at all. I think Breida's definitely the guy to own, and
I mean, I think that
solid.
Morris is definitely still someone to own, and I just think it's based off game flow. That's what it simply comes down to. But at the end of the day, I don't think 49ers will be up a ton, so Breida is definitely a guy to own. But I don't think you should drop Morris. I think he's still going to he got to carry in the goal line. I think he's still going to get those touches in the red zone or whatever. But yeah, Breida's definitely more of a guy to have than Morris. And obviously Kittle, in my opinion, top 5 tight end every week. He's just a beast.
So in this game, you got DJ playing, you got Kittle playing, but besides those two, and Breida
I'll play
obviously, those 3, really scary to start anyone else. Yeah. So I do have Arizona winning their first game on the road in San Fran this week due to their defense playing solid against 2-week starter in Beathard. What about you? You like San Fran at home?
I think San Fran's gonna win.
Nice.
I think the Cardinals are pretty bad.
I think Rosen, he's gonna get it going. I really do. So. I trust in him.
I hope so.
I love him.
I was reading that if the 49ers didn't get Garoppolo, then Rosen was the top of their board for the rookie quarterback. So that's pretty interesting.
They're gonna be hurting watching him play against them.
So let's move on to this Rams game that I'm always so excited about. Rams all day. I think if you have any Ram offensive player besides the tight ends, you're starting them. Let's move on to the Seahawks side of the ball. Russell Wilson, obviously, I think you got to start him on a weekly basis until he does something wrong. But he's been all right this year. Running back situation. Chris Carson obviously didn't play last week. Mike Davis came in and balled out. We talked about him last podcast. I'm rolling with Mike Davis again. I think that Mike Davis dethrones Chris Carson for the starting running back job. Once again, Chris Carson didn't practice yesterday. So we'll have to see if he practices today. But Pete Carroll said he should play, but he said that last week. So I think it's going to come down to the end of the week. And even if Chris Carson is able to play, I think it's I think it's a 70-30 share with Mike Davis getting the majority of the bulk of the carries. And I think he'll make the most of his I mean, he looked good last week. It wasn't just, I don't know. I loved what I saw out of him last week. And moving forward, I think he will be the starting back unless he gets hurt.
So even against, I know the Rams' run defense isn't scary necessarily. You're starting him against the Rams defense this week?
No. But out of the two running backs, I think Mike Davis does take the leap over Chris Carson. If you drafted Chris Carson to be one of your top running backs, and obviously you need someone to start, you're screwed. But
It sounds like go get Mike Davis if you can.
Yeah.
If you're a Carson
if you're a
owner.
Chris Carson fan, you need to own Mike Davis. If you don't, then that's nerve wracking. But at the same time, Chris Carson looked good a couple weeks ago. He does have good potential to be a decent running back for you. But moving forward, that's definitely a nerve-wracking backfield to have, which I have
Definitely.
both of them, which sucks. But anyways, let's move to the receivers. Doug Baldwin came back last week, didn't do much. Did lead the team in targets, but once again, didn't do much. Tyler Lockett got more yardage than him. Lockett's first game without a touchdown, but Lockett has looked super solid. I know that you like Lockett a lot. This week, are you deploying Baldwin or Lockett against the Rams D?
I am liking Lockett a lot this week because, for the most part, Marcus Peters is going to be on Doug Baldwin. So Tyler Lockett has some potential.
Baldwin lined up in the slot a lot last week, so
As does Tyler Lockett. They split that slot. So, and even so, Marcus Peters is slow. Like,
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett could burn past Peters. So I do like the appeal of Tyler Lockett more than anyone in this offense this week. Simply because that's, I think, one hole in the Rams defense is just speed in that back end of the field. So
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett's the only guy I'd be touching.
Cool. I'm going Rams. I think Rams win big.
For sure. Me too.
All right, moving on to Sunday night. Cowboys at Texans. We got a Texas showdown.
Uh-oh. H-Town versus Dallas.
Cowboys, I think we agree on this every week. Zeke is really the only startable player on that offense.
Yep.
Swaim he's getting the most work out of any tight end, but still, at the same time, he only got 5 targets, 3 catches, 39 yards, and got that touchdown. But
Too scary. Zeke,
it is.
only guy, and he's going to continue to be the only guy. They're going to funnel that offense through him, so, let's flip to the other side.
Yeah, Houston obviously has big-time playmakers on their offense with Deshaun Watson being the quarterback, having one of the best receivers in the league, DeAndre Hopkins. You're going to start both those guys this week.
Yep.
But let's talk about, Will Fuller, limited. He should play, but still, that hamstring injury has been a problem for the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
So we got Kiki Gutier
Your boy.
that we talked about yesterday on the waiver. Are you starting him this week?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely think so. Golden Tate shredded this Cowboys defense last week, had over 33 points. I think Kiki Kute is going to have a good week this week. Even if Will Fuller plays, I could see him having a good week this week.
Yeah, and then moving on to the running backs, Lamar Miller got banged up. Alfred Blue finished off the game, had about the same amount of touches. I'm a little worried about Lamar Miller. He hasn't really done much this year, so I'm kind of staying away from this backfield if I can.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I have to start Miller, I'm going to, but if I can stay away, I'm not playing him.
Yeah, definitely. This would be a tough game for him too. But I do think if he can, maybe even sit Lamar Miller out 1 week so he can get healthy, because just in that offense, he could be so potent with Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. There's so many other guys that could really lead up to Lamar Miller having a great year. But it's sad when you have offensive line as bad as they do. So
I know. It makes
it's tough
it
to
a
get
lot
that
tougher, yeah.
run game going. But who do you got winning this game?
Man, I do think Dallas wins this game. Prime time. They are away, but they're just a freeway drive away. I'm going Dallas.
I got Texans at home. Texans defense, I think, is going to show up on prime time. J.J. Watt's going to have a ridiculous game against Dak Prescott, and I think Houston's defense gives that offense opportunities, and they're going to take this game at home.
All right.
H-Town.
All right. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Washington Redskins at deadly New Orleans Saints.
Woo!
Coming back from suspension, Mark Mighty Ingram. So let's start off with the New Orleans side of the ball. Obviously, Drew Brees, weekly start. Alvin Kamara, the number 1 fantasy player right now. He's obviously a start, but we got Mark Ingram back. So does that affect Alvin Kamara whatsoever?
A little bit. I don't think that you should be worried at all. I think if anything, I don't know. it complements Kamara more because, and I don't know. To me, maybe he's gonna get less fantasy points, but there's not gonna be so much focus on Alvin Kamara. So at the end of the day, it should still help him, and he's still gonna eat.
Just like last year.
I do think that I don't know if I'm totally deploying Mark Ingram week 1, Monday Night Football, just because I want to see how that offense gets him going. But come on, he's been on this team for years. They know what they have in Mark Ingram. They know how to use Mark Ingram. So I could see him coming into Monday Night Football, easily scoring a touchdown and showing the world that, look, I'm still here. Don't forget about me. So I love Deuce, Mark Ingram, and so does Kamara. So I think they feed off each other in a way we saw last year to see beautiful ways. I think they both ended as top 10 running backs, top 15 running backs at the end of the
Top
season.
10.
So top 10.
Maybe even top
both on the
6.
same team. That's insane, and I still see that production moving forward. So you're good there. Let's get into these receivers, though. Past Michael Thomas, it's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, I'm not.
Ted Ginn, coming off a .2 game or something like that. Someone who I do think is emerging in this offense is Cameron Meredith. Cameron Meredith has seen more targets every week, and I think he's going to take over this second guy in that receiving core over Ted Ginn. So that's my 2 cents. Keep an eye out for Meredith because, watch, he's going to score a touchdown this week and be a hot waiver wire commodity going into the next.
Yeah, then,
in a high-powered offense. Yeah. I mean, that offense every week is scoring 30-plus points, I feel like. So
well, they have to. Their defense is definitely taking a big turn. They're the 3 top corners in the league that have had the biggest difference from last year in stats is all 3 New Orleans Saints corners. So they were 3 of the best last year, and now they're 3 of the worst. So that's just crazy, and it shows how in 1 year so much can change.
And it sucks how you expect Odell to just shred that team apart, and he doesn't. But anyway, let's flip to that Redskins side, Dill. Coming off a bye week this week, fresh. Everyone's going to be fresh. I think they're going to be really confident going into this game, looking good. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Alex Smith. Besides when they play the Packers, I'm loving what I see out of him. He's getting it done. Obviously they don't have the biggest name guys on that offense. Jordan Reed being their best receiver, who I love, and you're starting every week, obviously. But Paul Richardson, these receivers, I mean, I like, out of all of them, I think Paul Richardson is going to be the guy that I'm most comfortable playing, if any. What do you think?
It's tough because Crowder is definitely the biggest name out of all of them.
Definitely.
Paul Richardson, I wrote him down because I was like, you know what? He had that nice touchdown grab or whatever. But you look, he only had 2 targets.
Yep.
So that's what's nerve-wracking to me. That's what's, makes me not want to play him. But when he does get targets, he does well. Jamison Crowder, on the other hand, gets a decent amount of targets, but he doesn't do much with it. Jordan Reed obviously is their go-to big play guy that, like you said, you have to start on a weekly basis. And then Chris Thompson. I think Chris Thompson really might be the second best receiver in that offense as well. So it's tough for me. Great matchup this week. So I think if I'm firing up any receivers on that offense, it's going to be like an outside receiver like Paul Richardson or even a Josh Doctson, because you saw what the second receiver did. I said the 3-touchdown game earlier about Ridley. That was actually against the Saints. So I could definitely see either Richardson or Doctson having a decent game with a couple touchdowns because of blown coverages. So, yeah, I would rather take Paul Richardson than whatever his name is anyways, Josh Doctson. So I agree, man. I think Richardson definitely is more of a DFS play than a year-long league play this week.
So let's switch to those running backs.
Yeah.
Or that running back, I should say, Adrian Peterson, for the most part.
Well, he hasn't practiced. He sprained his ankle. He still didn't practice. They're coming off a bye week and he still hasn't practiced, which is a little nerve-wracking. But at the same time, he's an old buck. He needs his rest. Like, he won't practice all week until the day before, and then he'll get 30 carries, So I think Adrian Peterson, once again, until he proves me wrong, he's been producing this year, and they are feeding him the ball. So if he scores you a touchdown, which I think he will, this is going to be a high-scoring game in my opinion, you'll be feeling all right about him.
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game to where I don't think this gameplay works well to Adrian Peterson's strengths. I think that Alex Smith is going to be trying to catch up to Drew Brees during this game to where we're not going to see a lot of Adrian Peterson. We're going to see a lot more of Chris Thompson.
I think it's going to be close enough.
In my opinion.
I think it'll be close enough where it's going to be more touchdown to touchdown than touchdown, 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 catching up. But I do think Chris Thompson has a huge day, because of having to, score more touchdowns throughout the day. But I do think that Peterson does get his fair share of work and hoping for a touchdown. Definitely hoping for a touchdown. But if he doesn't get you one, then, expect, 5 to 8 points from him.
Yep.
Well,
Well, that wraps it up.
Who you
huh?
going with? Who you taking?
And in the final part, I think at home, I got to go with the New Orleans Saints. Mark Ingram's comeback game. I think that they get this dub, not only for him, but at home, they're getting this win.
Yeah, I think Redskins coming out of their bye week, everyone's well rested. I think they come out a little soft. I think the Saints score right away, kind of knock them off their feet, maybe had 2 touchdowns, but then they get back on their feet and they come back. And I think the Redskins take Monday Night Football, close game, nail biter to the end.
You said Redskins.
Redskins.
Wow,
Yes,
look
sir.
at that.
Yes,
Can't
sir.
wait to see these matchups. Please deploy and bench all these people that we told you. And if you got more questions coming into this weekend, just message us, Twitter us, hit up us on any social media. Speaking of that, Dill, where can they find us?
Yeah, so every Sunday we're hitting it hard. Jay especially is hitting it hard on the social media with answering sits, starts, whatever it may be, questions. Obviously, you guys all watch these Sunday morning shows, fantasy football shows and whatnot. They don't answer you like we do. So shoot us over some information and we'll get right back to you. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at The League Podcast and on Twitter at The League Pod. You can check out all of our podcasts on SoundCloud at The League Podcast as well, which will all be on our website at www.theleaguefantasyfootball.wordpress.com. And yeah, man, see you guys soon. Jay,
Love it.
always
Can't wait
always
for
a
Sunday.
pleasure. Yeah, me too. Have a good day, guys.
What did I do? What did I do? The league, huh?